for Two for the Win with your hosts, Nick and Wil, where we share international insight and levity on things such as leadership and mindset with Monday Mindset, the travel and the travel business with Wanderlust Wednesday, and sports with Fanatic Friday. Happy Monday, Nick.
Happy Monday, Wil. Happy Monday, winners.
So please make sure you subscribe, share, and follow for Two for the Win. Spread the word on this. And today's episode is sponsored by our very own Nick Menard and Associates with Dream Vacations. Thank you, Nick Menard and Associates.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Oh, good stuff. And winners, I am so excited to introduce our special guest today, Mr. R.A. Boss. Welcome, R.A.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Love having you on. Thank you for agreeing to be on. And so for our winners, let me give you a quick introduction to R.A. We have so much to cover today. I just can't wait. But R.A. is currently the Senior Director at Gartner, a Fortune 500 company. He is the Senior Director of Learning and Development, where he has successfully led and implemented leadership development programs for frontline leaders and leaders of leaders. R.A. started at Gartner 6 years ago as a director of operations supporting a myriad of client service organization-wide initiatives. R.A. has a strong background in operations management, excels at driving continuous improvement, facilitating operational excellence, and delivering productivity across multiple projects. He is known for his leadership assessment and coaching skills, leading by example, and integrating project and program management strategies. R.A., you've already seen this, is an engaging leader with analytical expertise and a team player mindset and results-driven approach. And so winners, R.A. didn't have this in his description that he wanted me to introduce him on, but one of the coolest things, I think, is he is a lean sensei. So if you want somebody who is an assassinator of waste, R.A. is the person. He will assassinate that waste. You'll be running more efficiently and effectively in no time. I had the pleasure of meeting R.A. 6 years ago, and you made a profound impact on me, buddy. I know we talked about that multiple times with your approach and the way you look at things. And so just extremely excited to have you join us today.
Yeah, it's great. So am I. I can't wait to get started.
Awesome. Well, winners, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer before we get to the topic, but we did promise a few weeks ago about the ladder of accountability, and R.A. is the man when it comes to the ladder of accountability. But before we jump to that, I did want to share, we have a section called
The Quote and Quips.
Quotes and Quips. So, we like to have a little bit of something that gets people to noodle on and think about. And this is tied to today's theme. So the first quote comes from Craig Loganskoff. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but Craig, if you're listening to this, apologies if I didn't get the name right. But the quote that he has is, "Blame is the coward's solution to his fear of accountability."
Love it.
I love it too. Great.
Any quick thoughts on that one, Nick?
I'm gonna use it and reuse it with some of the teams that I'm leading currently because I couldn't agree more. I like bold statement, and I love things to stick in your mind. And this is definitely something that people will not forget easily. So personally, I love short and sweet and straight to the point. Go ahead, Ari.
Yeah, this is great. And honestly, blame is the worst of the spot. Where does it take you? Nowheresville, right? It ends the conversation, and that's it. And there's no forward. There's no movement. It's a great quote.
Yeah, there's the last train to Clarksville, and then there's the express to Nowheresville.
You're making me cry.
Excuse-oriented. All right, and then the quote from today is from our very famous American Benjamin Franklin. Mm-hmm. So here's a Ben Franklin quote. "He that is good for making excuses is seldom good for anything else." So that's the quote from Ben Franklin.
Yeah, very profound again, short and sweet, the way I like it. And that fits perfectly into the theme of today, which is the ladder of accountability. And I think knowing RA also for 7 years or 8 years now, definitely he could have wrote this ladder of incapability. I can see RA actually building it, and because it's probably the person I know who is actually the one who implement this the best. So excited for what's to come. But what do you think about this quip?
What I really especially like is Benjamin Franklin truly is profound, and many of his quotes really talk about if we don't all come together, then we shall all hang separately. And that's true accountability in itself.
Yeah, totally agree. No, fantastically said. So, winners, today's topic, ladder of accountability. Special guest, R.A. Boss, you are going to hear from a front authority on this one. And I'll just give a little personal thing before we jump into the educating our winners more about the ladder of accountability, thanks to RA. But this had such a profound impact when you introduced it to me, RA. I don't know if I shared this with you or not, but I actually got posters, what are they, 3x5 foot post? No, 3x5 foot posters framed in both of my boys' rooms for the ladder of accountability, because I really wanted to make sure that they knew, regardless of what happened in life, they were in control of how to respond to it. And had a coffee cup. I think I used to give those coffee cups out.
Oh!
Hey, there we go. There it is. Nice.
He's prepared.
You got the very first one.
Victory favors the prepared.
You rock. You rock. That's awesome. Yeah. The ladder of accountability. I give those out. So anyway, just such a cool thing. But RA, let's jump into it if you're all right with that. What is, in your words, what is the ladder of self-responsibility and accountability, and how is it structured?
Yeah, I think it's a really critical question. And let's just define it really quickly before we actually jump the structure too. And as you see it, it really is a quality of being self-responsible to the things that you're truly accountable for. But it's also a state of being accountable, especially in obligation. So you're obliging yourself and you are demonstrating a willingness to what? Accept responsibility or to account for one's actions. Now, when you look at the structure, it's really simple. It's actually 8 rungs split into 2. The bottom 4 tend to be more reactionary, if you will. The top half is more proactive. Some say it's like the champion mindset. And really, when you start at the bottom, it talks about being unaware, even to the point of unconscious that something's actually an issue. Now, we mentioned blame. Well, that's what it is. It's blaming others. Of course, the finger pointing, as you know. The next one, as you can see, is like the excuses. I can't, and this and that. And finally, what I call, the magical place, waiting and hoping. But eventually, you cross that Rubicon. It's that double-headed arrow that brings you to the great part, which is to acknowledge reality. It's so powerful. Next, you see here beyond that is, okay, I own it. Let's own it. And when you own it, what do? Well, the next stage is finding the solutions, and you're working your way to the final stage in being that champion mindset, being proactive, is make success happen. That's the ladder in its structure.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you detailing it. And I think, as you were describing it, again, I was thinking, the same situation is happening to everyone, but they could be at any one of those rungs based on their own choosing and where they decide to place their energy.
I like that last part, your own choosing, isn't it right? It's a decision that you actively make. It's like waking up in the morning, and when you get ready, you have a decision to make. What kind of attitude am I going to have today? Am I going to have that proactive champion mindset where I work to make things happen? Or am I going to have that reactive mindset, waiting and hoping, maybe excuses, maybe there's blame, or I'm just unaware?
Yeah, because again, stuff's going to happen. And, I've had people say, well, I didn't ask for this to happen, or I didn't, sign up for this, or that person cut me off in traffic, so I felt compelled to throw a coffee cup at their windshield. I mean, that you know what I mean? But it's like, no, you chose to respond. Nobody forced you to respond the way you did. It was a conscious choice.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly like I said last week during the Monday mindset last week, is when you get up in the morning, as soon as I get out of bed, you decide the way that you want the day to go by. You can decide to be positive, you can decide to be negative, you can decide to be a victim, you can decide to be a victor. And when you take the car to go from point A to point Z, you can decide also if you have like a positive attitude when things happen on the road, or you can decide to be on your nerve. It's your own decision how you handle situations. So I love that. But RA, I like stories and I like clear situations. So our audience or winners can really understand maybe, if they don't get it so far about the ladder, they can understand better. So can you describe a time when you applied the principle of the ladder to a difficult situation, and what was the outcome? So it's a two-part question.
Yeah, absolutely. So in my former life as an aerospace aeronautical engineer, I was introduced to this ladder many, many years ago. As you said, I wish I had invented it, but no. But it's very powerful, right? And I found myself in an aerospace company where I was put in charge of a team that literally was in charge of putting the parts and kits and then putting the parts on the airplane, and sort of this production team. And they were at the very bottom of the scale. And the fundamental thing that they lacked was truly that accountable piece, but a leader to hold them accountable to the things that they were responsible for, which is what? Well, putting parts in the airplane. And in this situation, as I laid out here, is you have to have a few other tools at your disposal. And maybe for a future discussion is around the ability to use social styles, but a few other things like active listening, what I characterize finely tuned, the power of your own observation and that of your own words. Put in combination with really a continuous improvement to-do list was the winning combination to turn this team around from being a bottom performer to the top performer. Now, I'm kind of fast forwarding the story a little bit, but at the end of the day, after about 9 or 11 months of putting this into practice, what we found was people were using at the very beginning the ladder as these proverbial crutches. And as you chipped away at all the reasons and the stages before you flipped them to acknowledging reality, that's when the magic happened. And little by little, we were crossing off the things that were problems or issues or challenges or opportunities on the list, to become that top performing team as a result of holding ourselves truly self-responsible to the things that we're accountable to.
That's interesting. I have a follow-up question on this one. So I'm pretty sure, like you said, in the beginning, it was rocky. They didn't really understand how to use it. And then, and then you have a great outcome. So that's what all our winners, listeners right now, try to understand how to implement that to their own teams or their own businesses. So can you tell us about one or two coaching pieces that you implemented during this process, going from, I don't know, to use it to, I love it and it works, that may have played a role during this transition?
Yeah, definitely. The very first thing, and Will alluded to it, is posterize it. Get it up and in front of everyone. The coffee cup. I had something very similar. As I was talking to people, they were staring and they were like, yeah, I see what you're doing. Yeah, let's take a look at this. Yeah. Right here, right?
Say a lot without saying
it's
a lot. Yeah.
Right. It's an icebreaker. Yeah. And honestly, just the power of the visual is enough to sort of weigh on people's minds. And then you get to, professionally call them out. Use the visual, acknowledge, no pun intended, the reality of this situation. The good thing is to tell people, right, wrong, good, bad, or indifferent, it doesn't matter. We're here to solve problems, and together we're better, and we'll win together as a team. What we found is people were all trying to solve it all on their own and very individualized. When you bring the team together and you bring the temperature down and you leave your sensitivity skin aside, that's where people were starting to normalize and starting to react. You form the team. There was a lot of storming, right? Next thing you know, you hit that normalization. Once things start to normalize, you turn the quarter to performance. The ladder as a visual plays a great piece in this, and then just calling each other out. Make it fun. We made it a game. Oh, RA, oh, you're over here. Okay, you got me. Yep, you're right. How long do you stay there? Yeah. All right, I was there for about a week. Thank you for helping me get up and acknowledge reality. Yeah. So there's a lot of great things that you can do, but I would start with the visualization and the power of, and it plays on the mind quite heavily when you see it in front of you. You can't run away.
Well, and I'll build upon that. It not only plays on the mind when you see it, but it actually, as you normalize with it, as you're saying, it actually, for me anyway, has caught myself. Like when, fortunately, I've gotten better over time where I really don't dwell into the lower rungs that often, but I am human, and once in a while I do. But when I do, I catch it, and then I correct that internal self-talk, and that leads me to the next question I wanted to ask. What role does self-awareness play in the ladder of self-responsibility and accountability?
Yeah, excellent question. So self-awareness and that self-reflection, that is the starting point. Where am I? Why am I there? And back to Nick's point, you're making a decision. So the very first step, the role that it plays, is to identify your current stance. Like do an evaluation, right? Apply these descriptions of you see yourself, where you are. Step two, as you said, what's the choice that I'm going to make today? Where am I going to be on there? And practice making distinctions between why you would choose the level that you're at as opposed to the next one up. And then finally, step three is really to act. And that's putting a plan of action together. What do you need to do differently if you want to take a stance or different stance on the ladder? And lastly, step four is really we celebrated the wins, the success. It didn't matter if they were this big or they were monumentous. We celebrated them all. And that is challenging the thinking. And I'll finish it in this is if you challenge the current thinking is same old results. If you challenge the thinking to create new thinking, then different results come as a result. So celebrate the successes.
Love that. I think that celebration of success is piece for a lot of different, programs that we're using, or it's so important and so many organizations or teams or businesses are skipping this step because they feel like it's rolling eyes, kind of, oh my God, they're there. But it's important. That's so important. We are a human being. We all need it. Even people who say that they don't need it, they need it. So that's so important. Based on this fourth step you mentioned, any step in particular that require a bit more training or a little bit more focus?
I think really is people's choices. Push them to make the right choices, right? So they say, I want to be here. Well, how about 2 more steps? How about 3 more? Now, you can't just go from being unaware to make success happen, but really dive into the thinking as people choose what to do next. Assess their ability to critically think and as to really call it out and using another simple methodology like the 5 whys. Why? And in this way, once you get to acknowledging reality, you're almost kind of like a psychologist. You're kind of peeling it apart a little bit. And finally, you're at the root cause. You're like, aha, there it is. We've left everything else. We're not focusing on finger pointing. We're not focusing on excuses. Let's acknowledge reality. And that's a little bit tougher to get in people's minds. But once you do, and they see it for themselves, it's actually the degree into the function that they feel in control. Now that they feel more in control, own it, find solutions, make success happen comes much easier because they feel more in control.
Accountability, absolutely. I love that. I really do love this. Are there any tools or exercise that can help individuals better understand and apply this ladder of accountability in their own lives? Because I do believe that what we talk about for a lot of subjects about Monday mindset, we talk a lot about businesses, entrepreneurship, but most of the things we talk about can be easily applied to our personal lives as well, So the ladder of accountability, I can think about a lot of things like in your relationship, in your, friends group and things like that, sports. So any tools or exercise that you can maybe help us understand what we can use for that?
Yeah, definitely in my personal life as well, with my family and my children. And look, I had a recent example. I won't name the bank, but I went to a particular bank, and here's the methodology. I listened for the obstacles. I acknowledged the reality. This is the lift methodology. But then I identified the obstacles that I could influence in terms of what I could own and what they could own and what they should own. By calling it out, I said to the person, let's facilitate for the solve it and find solutions. Once you remove that guard, they feel like there's a wall and a shield, then we test for movement to make success happen. And it's very easy to do when you come with empathy, a listening ear, and the power of your own observation. These are simple things and adjustments in your toolkit that you can do to personally use the LIFT methodology toward having that true self-responsibility toward the things that you're accountable for.
No, I really enjoy that. And you mentioned something that we've talked about in a podcast before, and I know all three of us really focus on this in our leadership roles, is having empathetic leadership. And one of the things that I found is sometimes as a leader, when you vocalize more about human leadership and empathetic leadership and creating psychological safety within an organization, most get it, but there's a few who take that, and then it's almost like they create a country club environment where there is no accountability. Like, oh, well, you don't have to worry about these KPIs or measures because we're happy and you feel like you're in a good mood. Or, oh, well, we may not be driving the business forward, but, we can go out and have lunch and things are great. So I guess in your mind, for leaders particular, how would you recommend that they balance that human leadership, empathetic leadership, building psychological safety, while also at the same time driving accountability and self-responsibility so people professionally produce to the level that they're capable of?
Yeah, definitely. There's two parts to it. I think we also have to address the people dimensions. And the people dimensions, and look, I've been there too, right? It's those that never knew anything happened. Oh, everything looks great, or it's good enough. But then there's those who wonder, well, what happened as a result? Then those that kind of on the periphery, those that watch it happen. But lastly, it's those who actually make it happen. And for leadership, what makes it happen is really that active listening, as I mentioned, finely tuned. But the other thing is when you and I work very closely, Will, was to capture every issue or opportunity or challenge. It didn't matter. At that aerospace company that I mentioned I had captured 1,600 of them. And of course, it seemed daunting, and the kitchen sink, but it's about patience and temerity and tenacity. And the biggest tool in your arsenal is calling people out to acknowledge the reality, right, wrong, good, bad, indifferent. But you're right. There's a social style perspective to it, and being able to have that RF, the resonance frequency, and how it relates to everyone else. So you have to leave a little bit for each of those social styles in order to draw them in. And once you draw them in, they're more readily to open, okay, this is the reality of situation. Here's where I feel in control. That's okay. We will get better at feeling more in control because we're going to ask ourselves, why aren't we making the progress we really want to make? And that's a key question for leadership.
Absolutely. I found the ladder of accountability really helped augment my leadership effectiveness in the roles that I've had. I found that it's really helped with both of my boys. I have not found that it's worked as well with my partner. So I don't know about that. I still got some scars I'm trying to heal back for when I tried to, where are we on the ladder? And that did not go well.
Was the cup thrown at you?
I made sure it wasn't around there, but there may have been other things.
Oh my gosh.
He digress again.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I still get a tick every once in a while.
Oh my God.
I have one one of the last question I have for you. It's so interesting. Thank you, RA. So what are some common barriers people face when trying to move up this ladder? So when someone wants to get better and see the ladder and they realize they are in the bottom, so what kind of barrier do you see like people having not allow them to climb as fast as they would like to?
Yeah, I like this question, Nick. And really what it comes down to is feeling powerless. I'm powerless. I can't do anything. It's that defeatist attitude, that mindset. I would prefer is let's have that champion mindset. And it is what we call in the industry that external locus of control. And for many, it really is the decision to climb the ladder is a function, if you will, of the degree to which they actually feel, quote unquote, in control. So the more they feel in control, the more intentional they are. The more intentional they are, the more they commit. But if they feel that everything's out of their control, there's nothing that can be done, you've already lost. It's taking you to, as we said earlier, nowheresville. So You have to challenge the degree to which people feel in control and challenge them to say you're actually much more powerful than you truly realize, but for a few things. And I think that's really critical for leaders to really address is you are in control and what you do next matters.
Yeah, I love how you brought in a little Myers-Briggs there with the locus of control. Nicely done. Tip the cap. Give me that.
I aim to please.
I will say, with we have Wanderlust Wednesday, which is the travel business. I can promise you, Nick and I will never talk about a destination about Nowheresville. That is not a place we're going to visit. Not buying a ticket. I don't care what they got going on there. I'm not going to that spot.
No way. I used to also add Nowheresville, population U. So let's get out of there.
I love it. Fantastic.
I will research those destinations, and I will just put a big red cross. Like, do not do that. Do not go there.
Yeah, no
fantastic. Kidding. No, I love it. Thank you, RA. I will give you the opportunity to maybe, if you want to say a word to our listeners or winners here, based on the topic, or anything you would like to maybe share for them to keep in mind after listening to this episode.
Yes, absolutely. It's all about moving up, isn't it? Those that stay at the bottom tend to stay at the bottom. But those that want to move up, they use that lift methodology. And look, honestly, when you talk about listening, it's about hearing the hard things to see reality, right? Sometimes they're hard to hear, but sometimes we need to call them out. When you identify, it's about acting on the feedback that you receive. And of course, when you facilitate for the solve it, I want people to take risks. When was the last time your customers and clients said, don't take any risks for me to make me successful? I've never heard such a thing. Right. And then lastly, it's about doing the things I say I will do. Intention and commitment. If you said you're going to do it, I'm going to be watching very closely because you intentionally committed to it. And those are the things that you said you're going to do.
Love it. What a way to close it out.
I know. Astute words of wisdom. So thank you, Mr. R.A. Boss. Just fantastic nuggets of knowledge you've dropped on everybody. For our winners and our listeners, R.A. is, like I said, he's an assassinator of waste. But I mean, what you want for coaching, leadership coaching, he's a lean sensei. So if you want to drive operational excellence and be more efficient and effective in your organization, please make sure to give R.A. a call. You can find his contact information here, and it is also in the description. But only call him if you want to really crush things and make things extremely better. Otherwise, why call Lean Sensei with somebody with this kind of astute knowledge if you're not trying to get better?
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you so very much, R.A. It was a pleasure. I really love this kind of conversation because you bring the best all of us. So thank you again.
Yeah, and to our
wonderful.
Yeah, thank you so much. And so that wraps up another episode of Two for the Win. Be sure to subscribe, share, and follow. And again, you're interested in contacting RA, you have his contact information there. We will catch up with everyone again on Wanderlust Wednesday, this coming Wednesday. Take care, winners, and be well.
Bye, winners. Bye, RA.